Welcome to Free Range Flock. We were once the latchkey kids who came home to an empty house after school. We were feral, resilient, cynical, and innovative. Older than Google. Our teenage faces were never posted on social media. The internet was just an idea in our youth. Now we are older, wiser, and thriving. Our independent ways will continue to serve us. We plan to keep defying the odds, and we will carve our own path. With grace, with humor, with joy. Our way. We've been through some stuff. We will continue to keep pushing, and we are not going anywhere. The former latchkey kids are now the Free Range Flock.
So, Sarah, do you have any friends who are Gen Z?
I do. Not very many because, I'm in my later 50s now. And so I'm not around them a lot, but I do have a few friends, kids and things like that. So I am around them on occasion.
Right. As someone who is still teaching college level classes, I encounter Gen Z a lot as my students. And you hear a lot of bad things in the press about how, Gen Z doesn't have priorities or, that kind of disconnect with them. But I actually find them fascinating and think we have so much to learn from them. And I love how they are pushing the envelope on so many different things and making us question why we do different things.
Yes.
And they don't have the same values. That's great. But it doesn't mean our values were not out of whack to begin with. So I do think we've got something to learn from each other.
Yes, definitely.
So we want to spend an episode talking about that. And we're bringing in a friend of mine, Kristen, to join us, who will introduce herself in just a moment. But to talk about that whole relationship between Gen Z and Gen X and how they're really questioning some standards that we never really, prioritize correctly. And hopefully we can benefit and help each other. So we're here with Kristen and thought we'd get started with a quick introduction. So Kristen, do you mind introducing yourself to our audience?
Sure. My name is Kristen Daukus. I am a proud member of the Level 55 Club.
Woo-hoo, double nickels.
Double nickels, which I'm still wondering, how did we get here? I mean, I still remember us at 15 and 18. So how did we get here? That's just its own little question. I own a creative marketing agency where I work with small companies as well, but my favorite clients are my podcast clients. So they're just a lot of fun. It's a lot of creativity. I am the proud mom of 3 somewhat independent young adults, all female, and they all live on their own. And then my final step on this is getting them off my payroll, finally. However, that's very challenging in today's time. I just actually saw a report where something like 65% of parents are still helping their adult children all the way up into age 30.
Wow.
It's just so hard. So that's crazy. We can talk about that later. But like my oldest, she lives in D.C. and it's $1,800 for a 500 square foot studio apartment. Yeah, it's insane. I am the proud mom of 2 rescue dogs and 3 rescue cats. One which is a rescue. Just a toss away, if you will, from my youngest daughter's old roommate who just decided that she didn't want to take it. And Cassie's like, Mom, I can't.
No.
So we've got 3 cats, 2 dogs, and we are right now trying to decide if we're going to move. and we can't think of a good reason to move yet. So I have a feeling I'll probably die in my house.
Oh,
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that.
Except for the stairs. Although I have a leftover stair climber from when my dad was living with me. I guess we could always put that back up.
There you go. There you go.
There you go.
So I've got a ways to go. So your kids are in your 20s, their 20s, and my kid is 11. And I just thought of this. The other day he wanted to look at my yearbooks.
Oh.
And he's pulling out my yearbooks from Western Guilford. And he's like, Mom, why are people wearing, why is their hair, like, you remember bangs, like we would spray, our bangs, the higher the God, whatever, get up.
The higher the hair, the closer to God.
Exactly. And like for my senior picture, I had a tie, because, it was like the thing then. And then like my hair was so sprayed and like it wasn't moving in the wind. It was just like still,
Yep.
Can we even buy Aquanet anymore?
I don't think so.
You can actually buy Aquanet, but you kind of have to go to a
rural area.
Yeah, it's not. You have to really scrounge for it, but you can still get it.
But I find it's interesting that, I have a son, and so I'm thinking about, those expectations. I want him to know how to take care of a household and, be a good partner if he wants to be a partner or if he wants to run the household. So I'm constantly like, hey, Jules, when I leave you the house, make sure you never do this. I'm saying things like that. So as parents, we're always preparing our kids. And so talk a bit about your role as Gen X for your kids who are now in their 20s. I'm sure there are lessons that you're trying to impart for those girls.
Gen X has a hard time because we were raised by boomers and we had the influence of the greatest generation as our grandparents, right? So very, very gender rolled models, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And, our parents, at least with my mom worked. So they, my mom and my stepdad worked. So, I was a latchkey kid, right? So, but I very much remembered my growing up years as Don, my stepdad, he worked the 7 to 5, and then he would come home and work out in the yard. And, the expectation for my mom was to have, meat and 3 on the table.
Well, it's
and
6.
By 6 o'clock. And I remember, and to this day, my mom hates cooking. And it was funny. Remember, we were talking a little bit about COVID. It was my aha moment with my mom, because I was like, what's the big, because, my ex-husband and I, we love to cook.
Right.
Love to cook. So always, had the kids in the kitchen, etc. But during COVID, when we were all stuck together, it was, I would get what are we eating for dinner? And I was like, I finally had my moment where I just had my meltdown moment in the kitchen. I was like, I never, ever want to hear those words from you people.
I hate that question,
again.
too. It's my least favorite question.
Yeah, but that was for my mom, and she hated it. So when my stepdad died, she did 2 things. And she always straightened her hair out for my stepdad. And my mom, I know it doesn't look like, because thank you, menopause, all my curls are gone, she always straightened her hair out. She wore the bubble. And Christy Driver and I always used to laugh because she, twice a week, she was under the bubble. And the day my stepdad died, 2 things happened. She threw away the bubble, and she never cooked again. So when my oldest daughter was born, my mom and stepdad came to the hospital, and they grabbed, now Mackenzie was born at 5 o'clock in the morning, so this is probably 5 hours later, grabs her little left hand, and my mom says, just think, one day there's going to be a big, beautiful engagement ring on that hand. And I'm like, really? That's your first thing?
She's in diapers.
Not even. She's swaddled, and we're talking engagement rings. And I was like, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. And, we're in the South. So there are so many expectations still on women that their greatest accomplishment in life is going to be their relationships. And I'm all for relationships. Relationships are what makes the tough times, unless you're in a bad one.
Right.
And I have stressed to my girls that, and more recently even my mom, is like, it is better to be single and happy than booed up and miserable.
Right.
I'm like, there is no feeling in the world that is lonelier than sitting on the sofa with somebody, but being thousands of miles away.
Right.
That is the word, because you're changed. You're absolutely changed. So I just preached a lot to my girls that, to the point where in some ways I'm a little, I think I've gone too far on that, in the fact that none of them are in a relationship, which is okay. They don't need to be.
Right.
They're 25, 22, and 20. They need to be out living their lives. But I wonder if they're lonely. They've got friends, and so they have but it is a different type of a relationship.
Right.
But different people fill different needs in your life, and I've always felt that the society pressure is that one person fills everything. And when I was going through my divorce, that was one of the things that you've got to have. Certain people fill certain buckets that others don't. Right. And expecting one person to fill all those needs is a lot of pressure on the other person.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes.
No, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, you can't get all of your needs filled by one person. And if you did, it would be kind of shallow.
Right.
It puts a lot of pressure on the other person.
Absolutely.
And they're not going to do a good job.
No. Right.
I mean, it's impossible for one person to fill all those needs.
Yeah. Right.
And I feel like, and maybe you can talk a little bit more about this, but today's relationships that younger people have, and I don't have any kids, so I'm speaking just from observation, but it seems like they're much more fluid too.
Yes.
That they understand the fact that one person's not going to be that only focus point, and those relationships are much more open and fluid.
Right. Absolutely. And, it's nice to see society be more accepting of those, but we have Gen Z to thank for that. I have always said that Gen Z is the generation that's going to save us as a society.
Right.
They do not, they just don't have those same constraints that even Gen X. I mean, I think as Gen X, we did a great job of being a segue from the boomers of, okay, you're good. And I think part of it, too, is because we all moved.
Right.
That's another, the family doesn't look the same as it used to.
Right.
And I've experienced these conversations with my mom. She's like, why do they have to live so? Because my oldest is in Washington, D.C. Sydney, my middle, is in Pittsburgh. And then Cassie, we moved her out to Idaho. So, and I told them they're entitled, I'm like, go, move. You have got to get out of the triad. When I do not care if you go work on a cruise ship. Go work at an all-inclusive resort. Just go live your life.
See life, yeah.
Do not get settled down in your 20s. Do not do it. If that's what you decide that you want to do, you've got your entire life to be settled down. Because right now, you only have to worry about you. And maybe a cat. Or two.
Oh no.
But you can always come back.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. I came back. I turned 21 and I moved to Chicago with literally my car and my cat. Stuffed with stuff. I had a place to live, no job. I knew I could get a job when I was up there. So that's that hyper independence that we were talking about earlier. And it was, I say that I was born in North Carolina, but I grew up in Chicago. And because that's big city. I mean, that was 1989. So it was like a totally different world. And then from there, I moved out to Vail. So I truly felt like I was sowing my oats, quote unquote, and not in the relationship side of it, but just in life. And so anytime one of the girls like, oh, so-and-so's getting, especially when Cassie, my youngest, when she says it, it's like, oh my God, why? She's like, oh, so-and-so just got engaged. I'm like, why? And she's like, I know. So sometimes, they know what my reaction is going to be. And it's not that I'm anti-relationship. Sometimes people will say these things to me and they're like, oh, you're just very anti. No, I'm not anti. I'm pro-relationship at the right time.
Right. And have you taken enough time to do the work on yourself, to know who you are? Because I look back, so I became a mom at 42, and everyone's like, oh, you waited so late. I'm like, actually, it was a perfect time. Because in my 20s, I was getting my master's degree, I lived overseas, I changed jobs and found out what I wanted to do and be. I owned a company. I'm like, I did stuff. And so I can't even fathom being a parent or shackled to someone in my 20s, because I didn't figure out who I was until probably my 30s.
Easy.
Yes,
Easy.
you need your 20s to like figure it
Absolutely.
make mistakes, and like do stupid stuff, and like you need to do it. So
One of Cassie's friends ended up, last year, she's like, oh, so-and-so's engaged. So you're talking 20, right? And I looked at Cassie, I said, do you realize that she couldn't even drive a car 5 years ago? It's just how much, I can't even remember, like me in my early 20s, no way. Absolutely no way.
I did it, and you know, looking back, I wish we'd waited, you know, because the relationship ended up not working
Absolutely.
out. But at the time, you think, oh, you know, that person is the end all and be all, and you think that that's the right move,
Right.
You know,
right.
Yeah.
But you don't know who you are yet.
Oh, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I mean, that's kind of my point. Is it's like, by the time I had done enough growing to realize that it was not a good idea, we were already like 7 years into the relationship.
Yeah.
But that's because that's what society told you that you should do.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So you graduate high school, go to college, get a job, maybe, or some of Mackenzie's friends, one of her friends actually flat out said that all she wanted to do was be a wife. And I was like, you have your master's degree. Can we up our expectations here? Because trust me, that is not the job you want.
No.
That is not the job you want. And, you know, so many women have just, I don't want to say, have jumped into what I call the MRS degree. And, you know, they become stay-at-home moms, and that's fine. I have no problem with a woman that wants to be a stay-at-home mom at all.
Right.
However, where I have a problem is when they have none of their own resources. They don't, you know, they drop out. Do you know how hard it is to jump back into the workforce after 15 years, especially with a divorce rate at 60% and higher? And it's not just divorce. I was like, oh, we'll never get divorced. Okay, what happens if he dies?
Yeah.
Right.
You know, divorce isn't the only option here. Death is another one.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, now, if you're lucky, you had an insurance policy, so you don't. But now that degree you got 15 years ago, 20 years ago, is completely worthless. And one of my best friends went through that.
Right.
The only reason she was able to survive, if you will, was, well, that's a difference. But she showed, you know, she did the whole stay at home, you know, be the wife, and her husband left her. She got a marketing degree from Wake Forest University and graduated in 1992.
I think for me, what turned me off was that my mom got married and had me at 19, and seeing those struggles, and seeing her get to the age of 28 divorced. She had never written a check before in her life. She'd never had a checking account, and she had to figure it out, and like credit card and all that. And I remember, and she had 4 kids. And I remember thinking, that's not going to be me.
Yeah.
So I had that imprinted on my brain of, no, I'm not here. And in my freshman year at college, you know, we're sweatpants and tied to the ponytail. My roommate was in the MRS track.
Yeah.
She ironed her clothes every morning, and she always had makeup pristine, and I'd look like a train wreck. I just looked like I rolled out of bed and maybe brushed my teeth and was eating a Pop-Tart running to class. She's like, I'm here to find a man. I'm here to get married. And it's like, it broke my heart. Yeah. Because she was a smart girl.
Yeah.
But she was like, I am here to get a man.
Did you keep track of her?
No. Dang. Completely lost track of her. So we've been talking about, you know, we are enamored with Gen Z and how they're approaching relationships. They're much more fluid. They're looking at gender norms very differently, but they're not quite there yet.
No, they're not. And I think it depends on the parents, right? So my beliefs roll into my children's beliefs, right? Because you learn what you live. However, considering the area that we're in, a lot of the girls' friends' parents still had a lot of that boomer like mentality. So, you know, it's it's just like, I want to live long enough to see where we celebrate women for their accomplishments more than we celebrate them for getting engaged, being in a relationship, having a child, getting married, all those things. Anybody can get married.
Yeah.
Not anybody can, you know, get a master's degree.
Right.
Not everyone can do that. So not everyone cannot have a degree and work their way up the food chain.
Right.
That's worthy of celebration. I love seeing going through Instagram and seeing the premise of having a celebrate me party type thing. And, you've got these older generations that are like, oh, that's so selfish. That's so egotistical. No, it's not.
No, yeah.
It's not. I busted my tail. I started my own business. I got a divorce. I'm thriving. Should I not be celebrated? Absolutely.
Yes.
And I think women need to toot their own horns more.
Yeah.
Because, guys do it.
Right.
Oh, gosh.
I've told my kids when they are like, oh, I can't do that. I'm like, you need to have half the confidence of a middle-aged white man.
I say that all the time. I had the word mediocre in there.
Right. Yes.
Oh my gosh, the things that they will do, and I'm like, it boggles the mind.
I know.
It boggles the mind.
And it's study after study. Like if a man and a woman are up for looking to apply for the same position, if there's 20 requirements on there, a woman will think that she has to have at least 19 or 20. Yeah. And the man goes, I can do 5 of those. Okay, I'm qualified.
I'll figure it out.
And that's why I tell my girls, I'm like, you'll figure it out. You are hard. I've made all my girls work, and I made all of them work in the food industry. And I was like, you will not do retail because no matter where you go, you can get a job in a restaurant or a bar, and you're going to make more money, and you're going to learn how to deal with people.
Yes.
It's like, so you've got to go do it.
Agreed. And I think that society still, even though I feel like we have made strides, to celebrate the things, being smart, earning your master's degree, working your way up in the world. But at the same time, how do we describe women? Pretty, quiet.
Exactly.
Exactly. A good wife, a good mom. And being a good mom is awesome.
Yeah.
But it's also not the only defining feature of a woman.
No. Right.
So it's like, I'm hopeful that younger people can help change a lot of that language because we are so stuck in it, even within the Gen Xers.
Yeah, we have to fight not to use those markers, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes, I'm a cheeky person. I mean, I can be very, I think my Instagram, I just changed. It's like, sort of sweet, really salty. But
that's awesome.
But if you turn, it's like a man walks you like, let's turn the table and go, God, he's hot. Mm-hmm. Let's start with that, right? And you meet a woman like she is so we have to consciously, and people are attractive people. That's great, but if you are an a-hole, I got no time.
Yeah,
I got no time for you. It's just there's so many more important qualities. And, especially now, us being definitely well in our midlife, past our midlife. I guess we're in autumn now.
Oh, no, I'm still not. I mean, I got plenty of ways to go.
And I've told my girls, I was like, if you are counting on looks to get you through life,
look
at this.
Just wait till you get in your 50s.
You better hope you don't go through a pandemic in your midlife because, good God, thank you, masks, for bringing all these wrinkles. I firmly believe it was COVID and the mask that, set all of my character lines in cement.
Oh, my gosh.
But you know what? The one thing that the mask did do is it made people stop saying, you should smile. You look so pretty if you smile. I hate when people say that shit. I'm like, the expression on my face is the expression on my face, and
That's
I'm going
right.
to have what I want.
I have resting bitch face.
I do
so
too.
it's just
If I want to sit here and not smile, I'm fine with that.
My face gets tired.
Yeah.
Because I do have resting bitch face, and I got that comment so often. I have trained my face to have a neutral expression, which is just uncomfortable after 8 hours at work. I'm just tired.
I don't want to smile. What do I have to smile about? No, I mean, just, luckily, people are usually a little afraid of me, so I don't get that very often. But it's like, I tell you what, you shut up and I will have a smile on my face.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no one would ever say that to a man. There's just so many things. And I think that they're starting to get that. I think the younger generation are starting to see it. You know, when the whole Me Too thing came on, you know, there's the meme going around. It's like, oh, I got to be really careful with this whole Me Too. Like, okay, you're talking to women, you know, people that have walked around with their keys like, you know, like Wolverine
Yes.
our entire lives.
Yes.
That we can't, all the things that we can't do because we don't feel safe.
Right.
Tell us about that. Tell us about that Me Too movement.
The fact that people can live on the earth with women and not understand that.
I know.
I don't understand that at all. If you've had any relationship with any woman in your life, how can you not know that? And yet they act like it's new information that we're afraid to walk by ourselves at night without some sort of, you know, companion or bear spray or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bear spray.
Bear spray.
I do carry a bear spray.
Oh my goodness.
It's
That's good to know about you.
it's not in my purse all the time, but when I'm going somewhere that I don't know the situation, yeah, I carry bear spray and I have a knife in my car. You know, so
interestingly enough, you know, I wanted to equip Mackenzie with all of that kind of stuff. You can't have that stuff in D.C.
yeah, because of 9/11 and stuff. Yeah,
And I'm like, okay, so how are you supposed to protect yourself? I mean, those are the thoughts I have to have as a mom of daughters, right? And so we're relying on the moms of sons to help us here. And you've got a big job.
I do.
You've got a big job, and you know, sometimes I feel sorry for the moms of boys because it goes so far on the other side that, you know, the really, really good ones are being, it's like the you know, one bad apple spoils the whole bunch. And, you know, most of like my girls' friends that are guys, they're great guys. I'm like, your mom's done a great job.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Like, you know, they know how to, you know, you were talking earlier about making sure that your son can do basic things,
Yes,
right?
it's so hard.
I mean, you know, they need to be like, moms, raise your sons to know how to do laundry. It's a chore. Every single one of us has to do it. We need clean clothes.
Yes.
It's not my job.
Yes. Very soon, I've decided that I'm going to stop doing his laundry and let him do his own laundry, because he will have a meltdown on me and say, Mom, I don't have enough clean clothes. And I'm like, because you want to wear the same 4 things all the time, and you have other clothes, you're just not wearing it. But I'm like, you need to be washing your own clothes and staying on top of it and understand what's involved there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just like when he comes and says, hey, Mom, I'm hungry. And I'm like, you walked through the kitchen to my office to tell me that you're hungry. You could have just stopped in the kitchen and got something to eat. Why did you take the extra step?
I think in Jules's case anyway, I think so much of his day at school, he has to ask permission for everything. That's the way elementary school is.
Yeah.
That's true.
So I do think that influences it to a certain
Well,
extent. And I think it'll be interesting to see him after being in middle school and giving him those responsibilities.
Yes.
It's like, you're going to need to do your own laundry. Make that grilled cheese sandwich. You know how to make macaroni and cheese now. Go make your own
Yes.
macaroni and cheese.
Yes.
He's old enough now to start doing those things, and I think it's going to be interesting to
Yes.
see him bloom in the next few years.
It's coming. I've got a strategy for this summer, like, you know, and that's the perfect time for me to introduce that kind of
Yeah.
stuff is in
Yeah.
the summer, and like, let's practice, let's talk about it, and he'll hem and haw, whatever.
Oh yeah, he's such a smart kid though, and he loves to learn new things. So I think once he wraps his head around it, he'll be fine.
And they do appreciate that. I did the same thing with all my girls. I'm like, Mom, I don't have any clean clothes. That's not my fault. I got clean clothes.
Yep.
I got clean clothes. You know why I got clean clothes? Because I did my laundry. So we're not doing our kids any favors by not teaching them these things,
Right.
male or female.
Yeah.
And I've even seen my oldest say, she's like, God, you wouldn't believe. She's like, that they just don't know how to do anything.
Right.
They can't cook. They can't do this. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
see, all those me being so mean. Now you're my job. My entire point of, or my objective with being a parent was not to be my kid's best friend, but was to release fully functioning young adults into society.
Right. Yep.
And I feel like I've accomplished that. And I'm not saying that I'm like the world's greatest parent by any stretch of the imagination, but I think I did okay.
And I tell Jules that all the time because we'll walk the dogs and we'll like, while we're here, let's talk about this big life thing here. I'm like, my job is to make sure at age 18 that if something happens to me, and I'm like, I'm healthy, nothing's happened to me, but if I leave this planet and you're here without me, you know what to do.
Right.
You know how to take care of this house. You know how to have a budget. You know how to do laundry. And like we talk about like a budget. My parents never taught me how to have a budget.
Right.
And so I went to college.
Because that's the man's job.
Exactly. My dad thought, I'm not going to have to talk to you about that because your husband will do that. So here I went to college at 18, and then all these credit card applications started flying in, and I had to explain this to my son, to Jules. I'm like, you're going to get hammered at 18 because they know that you're no longer around your parents and you're vulnerable, and they're just going to hit you up with that stuff. And he goes, that makes sense. I'm like, but you're not going to do that because you're going to have, an IRA, you're going to have this, but you're also going to understand how a budget works and how no one offers you free money without a catch.
That's right.
And you're going to see that. So we're already talking about that. So I'm hoping to head that off the path.
And it's so important. And for the same reason that I wasn't taught that, my stepdad, it was, you got to take care of your credit. And that was it. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
There were at least we had, at Western, we had that, I can't remember the name of the class, but it was basically...
It was like a really quick class.
Yeah,
too.
and where the personal finance and I remember the teacher, but I can't remember
we learned how to write checks.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that was, again, the thing. And, when in my marriage, I was the one that took care of the finances. I didn't want that job. I'm a creative. I'm not a numbers person.
No.
I mean, I did okay, but I did a lot better after my divorce because I knew where all the monies were.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But that was my thing before the girls. I was like, you need, and I'm going through it right now. And like, I explained to them a little bit more than my stepdad did. Mm-hmm. I'm like, do not struggle the way I did in my 20s for that same reason.
Right.
I trashed my credit. Because I didn't, that free money had to get repaid, and I didn't have the money because it's the old thing. It's like if you ask to borrow money or you loan money, people don't borrow money unless they don't have money. It's the whole thing. Right. And I told my girls, I was like, I'm driving this home to you. I said, I'm on a soapbox about this to you because you have to have that financial independence.
Right. You got to have it.
Everything revolves around your credit. Right. Unfortunately.
And they got to know that. And school is not going to teach them that. And they're relying on us to teach them that and be good role models for that.
But I think you're right. I think a lot of it, too, is that's traditionally a male, chore in the household.
Right. So for this episode, we've been talking about the societal norms and about, helping those future generations get it right.
Or get it better.
Get closer to right as we possibly can. So this has been a great conversation. Thank you, Kristen, so much for helping us with this. We haven't got it all figured out, but I think the big message is we're all figuring it out. We're all... it's fluid. We need to have conversations about it. We can't just assume that our kids are going to learn this and other generations are going to learn this. We have to talk about it, but we got to stop talking about like women do this and men do this. Well, we all need to do it.
Another, typical and just thought of this is the fact that as soon as my kids had cars, I was like, you need to go get the oil changed. Mm-hmm. You need to understand how to walk into the mechanic. And, we'd used the same mechanic for years. And I was like, Roger's a great guy. So you go over there and you tell him that you need to have the oil changed. He will take care of you. Mm-hmm. I don't want to do. You have to do this.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's part of being a grown-up.
That's exactly right. As soon as I could, same thing with the kids. You make your own doctor's appointment. Now, after 18, I don't have, because of HIPAA. Right. But you need to do this.
That is actually something someone at work was talking about their kids. Their kids are in college now, and they have been training them since high school to make their own dental appointments, make their own doctor appointments, eye doctors, all of that stuff. And that's brilliant because, my parents, didn't. They did all of that until I was out of the house.
Right. Yeah. So. Well, part of the problem that I found was when my kids started working, I would make an appointment and one of them would be like, well, I have to work that day. I'm like, why am I the middleman?
Right.
Why am I the middle person?
Right.
Okay, here's the number. You call. Yeah. I don't know your schedule.
Yeah.
Right.
I love
Definitely.
it. That's one I'm going to add to my list right there. make doctor's appointments. Lovely. Well, thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for coming. It's lovely to meet you.
Good to meet you.
So, Sass, what did you think of Kristen?
Oh, she's so fun. I liked her. We've met one other time, but we hadn't had a real deep conversation, so that was very fun.
Yeah, I wish we could have spent more time with her. She was a lot of great energy. It was lovely to hear her talk about, helping her kids, her daughters who are in their 20s, not make the same mistakes or stumbling blocks, and it's really helpful. And just to hear how people are pushing back and questioning different things, and it's refreshing because we hear such different things in the press about Gen Z, and never from a positive spin. It's unfortunate.
It really is, because my experiences, and again, I don't have as many as you because you work with them on the daily, but they're very positive, but they're also very realistic.
Yeah.
Like they have a much more down to earth. Let's just strip away all the crap. Let's look at what's really there. And they're braver in so many different ways than I think I was at that age.
Right.
And I'm very impressed with this generation.
Yeah. Things like take a gap year, or I'm going to take a break from my mental health, or why do I have to get married in my 20s? Or why are people asking me when I'm going to be pregnant or have a baby? Why? Questioning all that, pushing back. And those are things that were also happening to us, but we just thought, oh gosh, here's the expectations. Here's one more thing I'm not doing well. And this whole generation is like pushing back and saying, no, I don't have to do that. I can do my own thing. And it's so lovely to watch.
It really is. I feel like, Gen X definitely went down that path. We were so different than our parents, but we just didn't get as far.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we've kind of carried Gen Z, literally, because they were babies. Yeah. And now they're taking that little baton and they're running with it.
Yeah.
It's that relay, and I'm so proud of them. They're not perfect, no generation is, but I just feel like I'm learning every day when I see what these young people are doing.
Yeah, it's lovely.
So, if you haven't found us on social media, why haven't you? As we've said before, we really love having these conversations, and we want to have them with you. So find us on TikTok, or find us on YouTube, or on Facebook, or on Instagram, and start a conversation with us. We would love to hear from you. Today's conversation is about Gen X and Gen Z. Do you have Gen Zers in your life? If so, have you been able to learn something from them? Because I certainly haven't, and we'd love to hear what you're learning from Gen Z. Thanks for listening, y'all. Thank you for joining us for Free Range Flock. Our goal is to inspire and celebrate who we are, the Generation X kids who grew up and decided to do things their way, with grace, humor, and joy. This has been a production of Sassy-Am. If you want to learn more about our podcast, follow our blog, share your positive insights about being a free ranger, or to suggest topics or guests for future episodes, please visit our website at sassayam.com. That's SASSAYAM.com. Keep pushing.